4 test, it is worth 150 points. The top part, these are the definitions you are responsible for. It is matching. So these are the ones from Chapter 3. We did 1 and 2 definitions on the other test. So this is Chapter 3, this is Chapter 4. There is a short answer section on the test. The first part, you will recognize that, says to identify the accounting equation. We know what the accounting equation is, right? Somebody, Jack, what is it?
Assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity.
There you go. Assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. It's as simple as that. That's the accounting equation. The second one, describe a trial balance. Our trial balance is one of the very first things we did. It's back in Chapter 2. It's a list of all your accounts and their debit and credit balance. All it does is show you that your debits and credits are in balance. The third one is to list the order the 3 financial statements we dealt with are prepared in the order and why. We had this on the 1 and 2 test, okay? The 3 we dealt with are income statement, statement of owner's equity, and the balance sheet. And I want you to tell me that order, and I want you to tell me why they have to be in that order. Don't describe the statement. Tell me what about each of those says we have to do it in that order, okay? Which account will never be used in an adjusting entry. If you're online, I had a video at the very beginning of the adjusting entries that told us this. My in-class people should be able to tell me this. What is it? Cash. Good. Explain why we close some accounts. Why do we close some of our accounts? That's in the book. What is the reason to have closing entries? Which accounts will not be shown on a post-closing trial balance? Anything you close is not going to be on a post-closing trial balance. So if it's closed, it's not going to be there. So I need you to tell me which accounts those are, which ones are closed. Which account will not be on any statement? I told my in-class people, I haven't been able to tell my online people, but there is one account that starts with the closing entry and it ends with the closing entry. Y'all remember what that is?
Income summary.
Income summary. It starts when you close your revenues, then you close your expenses to it, and then the third closing entry is to close your income summary. So it's not on any statement. It starts and ends with your closing entry. The difference between permanent and temporary accounts, that is also something you can find in your book. The difference is your permanent accounts, their balances are going to build and build and build and fluctuate up and down and up and down, whereas your temporary accounts are closed out at the end of each period. Okay? The next section is a problem section, and you will be asked to identify accounts as assets, liabilities, capital, drawing, revenue, or an expense. You got to tell me what type of account they are. You also have to tell me what statement they appear on. So whether they're on the income statement, the statement of owner's equity, or the balance sheet, you're going to have to tell me that. You're going to have to tell me if their normal balance is a debit or a credit, and give me an example account number for each of these. It is not in T account form like it was. You have a chart that has a list of accounts, and you tell me on each of them what type of account it is, what statement it appears on, if it's a debit or a credit normal balance, and what an example account is. Okay? You also will have to record regular monthly transactions in a general journal, and I put in good form. That means line your debits up on the left margin. Underneath it, indent your credits. You will not have to write explanations, but you do have to skip a line. Okay? So make sure your format is correct. You will also have to complete a worksheet. I'm going to show you one in just a minute. You will have to journalize adjusting and closing entries. And you will have to produce one of the 3 statements that we studied. So you're going to have to know the format of all of them, but you're not going to have to do all of them on the test like you've been having to do with this homework. You'll only have to do one, okay, instead of all 3. And there is also a small section where you have a list of accounts, and you have to tell me if they are current assets, plant assets, current liabilities, or long-term liabilities. So that's another section. The worksheet, I said I would show you. This is what your worksheet on your test looks like. This is the actual worksheet. What I filled out is the trial balance columns. You will be given information to complete the adjustment columns. so you can fill out the adjusted trial balance columns. And what I ask in the directions is to save time, I say, put a check mark over here in the income statement and the balance sheet columns where the balance would go. Okay? So like cash is $4,500. It's going to be $4,500 here. So where on these two sets of statements, columns, will that $4,500 go?
In the balance sheet.
In the balance sheet on the debit. Instead of writing $4,500 and having to total all of that stuff, you put a check mark there. Okay? So these columns will have check marks where balances should go. Does that make sense? Okay. The other thing about these columns, we know we have these total lines, right? At the very end, well, if we don't have numbers, we can't have totals. Correct? So we're going to have balances here. And what I ask for is to indicate if you have a net income, where would that amount be? Okay? And I tell you to show me with an NI where net income would be, or an NL where a net loss would be. Okay? If I have a net income, it's going to be income statement debit, balance sheet credit. If I have a net loss, that's going to be there, right? Remember that? And then obviously you have your totals, and then we're double lined under that. Okay? So these two sets of columns will not have numbers in them. I mean, if you put numbers, I'm not going to count it wrong, but just to save yourself some time, and by this time your hand's probably going to be cramping from writing so much. Not really. But just put the check marks. Okay? Check marks where the amounts would go. And don't forget your heading, because that part's blank too. So that's explained in the study guide, and I'm done. I think I've done it wrong.